Hello, you guys. This is Sharzad Morgan, author of What I Did for Sex and What It Can Do for You. I know this book was written 10 years ago, but it still tells a pretty good story of someone who was utterly clueless about what it was like to be married to someone who was dismissive. Back when I got married in the 80s, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all this knowledge about relating and relationships. Back then, I had the idea that, well, a lot of people have it worse than I do, and this is a pretty good guy. I mean, I know he doesn't care about personal development. I know our sex life is bad, but he keeps his word. He's a good worker. I respect him. He really wants to be a dad and start a family. And I felt attracted to him, and he felt familiar to me in some way. You know how we pick people that somehow feel familiar? There was a familiar feeling I had for him, and I decided this is probably as good as it's going to get, so I'm going to do this. But from the very beginning, our sex life was crap. It was kind of like Maureen Callahan, who wrote a book about the Kennedys, and I watch her show, The Nerve. She's so good. She was on Megyn Kelly the other day, or a year ago. I don't know. When she came out with the book, I watched it the other day. And she talks about how President Kennedy had sex. He was extremely dysfunctional sexually. The way he had sex with his wife and with all of his mistresses was he would never kiss them on the lips, never kiss. He wouldn't even take off his clothes. He would unzip his pants, pull it out, make a couple pumps, finish, and walk off. That is sex that is just physical. Now, my ex husband was not quite that bad because instead of two pumps, I think I had 10 or 20. And he did take all of his clothes off. But other than that, he was just like the President Kennedy. There was no kissing, there was no romance, there was nothing. And I feel sad for these men. I think in Kennedy's case, apparently he was in the hospital a lot as a child. Somehow he had shut down any connection, any human touch. Somehow he felt safer to not allow that in. So I think that children who are not touched enough are very uncomfortable with touch and they avoid any kind of touch. I'm very comfortable with touch. I I mean, I don't want to be touched all the time, don't get me wrong, but I'm very comfortable with touch and with hugging. You know, I keep my nails short. I like touch, and I love getting deep tissue massages, and I loved holding my babies, and I like the touching part of sex and being held close. And even when I'm being sexual with someone, I really need to be kissed and held close in order to enjoy the experience. And so to have sex with someone who makes it just physical, who doesn't want to look at me, who doesn't want to kiss, I didn't realize for many years how wounded these men are who have this kind of sex where they don't look at you, they don't kiss you, they don't tune into your feelings, or they don't even want to go on trips with you alone because that connection is uncomfortable or it's scary, or somehow they've protected themselves from feeling. They've had to shut off their feelings to protect themselves. And being married to someone like that who is dismissive of our feelings is not only painful, it's actually unhealthy and it's traumatizing. This refusal to tune into my feelings or want to go to therapy or to deal with it is what ultimately led me to divorce him. And I think that's why so many women do get divorced, because maybe like me, they marry someone who didn't change. This, when we divorce someone who didn't change, right? So you might look at the woman and be like, damn, these women who are always divorcing men, because we marry men thinking we can change them. That's what I think. I think that we marry men who have some kind of emotional issue, right? And we think we can change them, but we can't. And this is something we didn't know back in the 80s or the 90s. Somehow I thought my love can change him, time can change him, or I know he loves me, so of course he'll want to change. That is wrong thinking. People don't want to change, and people don't change how they relate in their relationship. People only change if they get very uncomfortable. Look at a fat person, they're always fat until the doctor says, you keep that up and you're going to have a heart attack next year. Now this person changes his diet, he starts working out. Or he looks in the mirror and go, damn, I'm going to do something about this. It's always that person's own decision. Because not everyone's going to change their diet when the doctor says you're going to have a heart attack. So people have to want to change because change is uncomfortable, and we like to be in our comfort zone. Me too. A lot of the changes that I've made, even the book I wrote, it came out of my pain. My divorce came out of my pain. I was in so much pain, I could no longer be with him. So I left, and leaving was hard, and it was scary because I didn't have the money to leave him. And I was scared to leave him. I hadn't even considered it. I was like, this is my marriage for life. I had an identity. Sharzad, I have these degrees and I've been married 25 years and I have these wonderful kids, and that was my identity, and I had to blow that all up. But thinking that people will change is a huge mistake. Now, there are times that people will change to keep a relationship if their partner is leaving and they want that person enough that they're willing to go through the discomfort. But I think that's rare. I think that if the woman goes up to the man, it's like, if you don't stop your alcoholism, I'm leaving. The chances are he's not going to stop his alcoholism. Some might, but most will not. Or she says, if you don't stop your cheating, I'm leaving. And the guy's not going to stop his cheating. That's just who he is. That's who she married. The woman married the alcoholic. She married the cheater. She married the avoidant man. And I married the avoidant man. I thought, I can live with this. Everyone has problems. Maybe he'll get better at lovemaking after we're married, after I'm the mother of his children. I didn't know that people are not going to change. They're not. And that's ultimately what happened. And ultimately, these wounded men, emotionally shut off men, and there are women like that too, don't get me wrong. There are as many women who are emotionally shut down as men, but I'm speaking from a woman's point of view. Being married to a man like that is like trying to keep lighting your candle. You want to light a candle and someone keeps blowing it out. It's not just about wanting to receive some love back. It's about wanting to express my light, my passion, my desire for connection, and then being with someone who's like, I don't want that. Too scary, too scary, too scary, too scary, too scary. And it's like, hey, I want to kiss you. No. So it's being married to someone who's constantly pushing you away, and you're like, I want to connect. And that person's like, no connection. Ever. And so by the time I got divorced, I was not in a good place emotionally. I'm going to be honest. I think about where I was at emotionally, and I had the idea of, okay, this guy does not want to connect with me. He doesn't want to go on trips with me. He doesn't want to have sex where he even looks at me, because he said, Sharzad, sex is just physical. I told one of my kids that, and they were like, oh my God, Dad said that. They were shocked. But I told them that because I was like, I want you guys to know why I got divorced. And I'm like, okay, I want to experience sex that lasts more than a minute with someone who kisses me and looks at me. I want to know what it's like for a man to actually make love to me. And I'd had boyfriends like that in my 20s, but that was so long ago. And I didn't know what I was doing in my 20s. It was so long ago, I don't even remember. And I feel like I developed a lot more passion, a lot more um, ability for intimacy and connection over the years. I felt like I had matured emotionally a lot. And by the time I left him, I was so in my heart. I was just like, hugging people. And I remember going to the dentist and my ex-husband, my husband at the time, saying, don't hug the dentist, don't hug the dental hygienist. I was just so in my heart at that time in my life. And I really wanted to experience what it was like to have sex with a man who was reciprocating that affection and that love. And because I didn't get that from my husband, it left me, I was crying so much. There were nights I was like, I wish I could knock myself out with a frying pan because I'm in so much emotional pain. It's like, those of you who've been through a breakup will know that pain. I remembered that pain from when I was younger, but I thought, oh, I'm older now. I'm never going to feel that kind of pain again. And I was wrong. The worst pain I've ever been in my life were the 3 years prior to when I divorced him. I did not know how to get out of that pain. I was still doing things and working out, but I felt no joy. I felt bland. I didn't know how to bring any joy back into my heart. I'm like, let me try yoga. Let me try CrossFit. Let me walk among the flowers. Let me take my dog for a walk. I know I like trees. Let me look at the trees. I would hear people say jokes and laugh. I couldn't laugh. I couldn't laugh. I had just, there's this attachment system that it's a real thing, and when my attachment system was severely traumatized, you know, and then I went out into like the dating world and I wanted to experience my sexuality. That's what I really want. It's like I wanted to experience love and sexuality with my husband, but he didn't want any part of that because he was emotionally repressed. Ladies, do not date men who are emotionally repressed. And that includes men who are abusive to you, because a man who is abusive is emotionally repressed, or he has no boundaries. So you got to pick a guy with good boundaries who is emotionally healthy, who can handle his emotions, and who wants to be connected. Otherwise, it's going to be miserable. Okay, so I came out of that marriage. I'm like, I want to express my sexuality. I want to feel what it's like to make love with someone. I want to see if I can even have an orgasm with someone, because my ex-husband had not been able to give me an orgasm the last 3 years. None, because he was so clumsy in bed. He was so emotionally unattuned to himself that he couldn't even feel my body. He didn't know how to feel and connect, if that makes any sense. He was so clumsy in bed. Poor guy. Just like the Kennedy guy. Emotional. They were wounded in their childhood, okay? And they didn't ever want to do anything about it. And that's the thing with people. They don't want to go to therapy to start to feel more. And when I left my ex-husband, I was thinking, I want to be more and feel more. And this guy keeps blowing out my candle. I want to connect. I want to touch. And he's like, keeps pushing me away. And he's snuffing out my candle. And I didn't feel rejected because he still desired me. He still wanted to have sex with me. He still wanted to go places with me. But I couldn't express myself. I couldn't express myself. And I look younger now than I did 15 years ago when I left him. I'm so much happier now because I'm no longer being squashed down. He squashed me down sexually and emotionally. I wasn't allowed to play with my emotions and with my sexuality with him. So I came out of that relationship. I want to experience things. I want to feel things. And I was looking for men I could do that with. And that was a huge mistake because as I discovered later on, don't, as a lot of women will tell you, there's no point in hooking up, because to many men, sex with us is just like going out to a restaurant. I tried that one, I'm moving on. I never need to go to that restaurant again. And they're done. And to women who are we are much more selective when it comes to sex. We will have sex with men that we like in some way, we'd be willing to have sex with again, or go out with, or date maybe. There has to be a feeling thing of, I like this guy, this particular guy. And to a man, is like any woman will do. Okay? They're just sport fucking. Even the nicest of men have that ability to just sport fuck. And so I ended up getting myself into situations. It was emotionally difficult for me to have sex with these men, and then they would never contact me again because I was too passionate for them, or I made them uncomfortable emotionally because I was more passionate, or they just wanted a one-off, or they had their own. I don't know. These were mostly young guys in their 20s, but there were some in their 40s and 50s also. And I didn't do myself any favors. So what I really learned from all this, there's key takeaways. People will show you who they are from the beginning. Do not project fantasies onto people. Find out who they really are and believe them. Watch their actions. Watch people's actions. They will show you who they are. That's number one. Watch people's actions. Do not listen to what a man tells you. Do not project a fantasy onto a man. Do not think you can change a man out of your love, or if you give him children, or if you marry him. Watch his actions. That's who he is. And watch them over time. Not his words, but his actions. That's number one. I also learned that casual sex for men is a sport. Sex for men can be a sport. Men are much more capable of having sex with no strings attached and being happy to just see you and enjoy you sexually once, maybe for months. You're their hookup buddy, while in your mind, this is leading to dating. This is leading to a relationship. So you have to, as a woman, know the difference between your sexual desirability to a man and your relationship desirability to a man. You have to know the difference, because a man can fuck you once or many times, and that's all he will ever want. The same way that you go to a restaurant to eat, but doesn't mean you want to buy the restaurant. Just like going there to eat. Okay? The way you know your relationship value is the man actually takes you out, introduces you fairly quickly to his friends, to his family, and your dates consist of going out as much as they consist of having sex. And he will say things like, I want to date you. He will give you dating signals. So those are the two things that I think ladies really have to learn. And then also, I think it's important to know a little bit about someone's childhood if they felt loved by their parents. I think in the case of my ex-husband, definitely not. In the case of Kennedy, probably not. Because when children do not feel loved by their parents, they build a wall of armor around themselves, to protect themselves from that intense pain. And once you build a wall of armor around your feelings, you don't even know what you're feeling. You're incapable of knowing when you're angry. You might be angry and someone might say, "Oh, I see you're angry." And you'll be like, "No, I'm not." Because you don't even know. You're so repressed. And you might want to be kind. You might want to be a good parent, a good worker, whatever, and be kind. But you're so disconnected from your feelings because you have that wall of armor. So if you're dating someone who felt unloved or was abandoned or neglected by one or more parents, if they haven't done a lot of therapy, they are going to be very bad in their relationship. Those are my 3 takeaways. Let me see if I remember them. I came up with them on the spur of the moment. Okay. Watch his actions, not his words. Watch his actions over time. He will show you who he is. Do not listen to his words. Do not project a fantasy onto him. Observe his actions. And stay very much in that observer mode. Do not let yourself fall in love with a fantasy. People do not change. They will not change. So do not even think of trying to change him. Because that's unfair. It's a boundary violation. And it's disrespectful to him. And it's just going to cause you misery. So that should probably be the second point. I need to do this over. Okay, number 1, watch his actions. Number 2, realize he's not going to change. Get out of that fantasy that you can change him. That's an old wives' tale that we have to let go, ladies. That's what women used to try to do to deal with being stuck with these unhappy marriages. They would tell themselves I can change him, to have some glimmer of hope. Let that go. That's a fantasy. Number 3, I forgot. Oh, I shouldn't even do a recap. I don't remember, but this one for sure. If you're dating someone who felt unloved by one or more parents, either because the parent was mean, angry, hated the child, or abandoned the child, or neglected the child, was an alcoholic, was in jail, moved away, died, okay, couldn't see the child for whatever reason, that child felt unloved, that child is going to have an armor around his heart that will stay. That armor will not go away unless that adult goes through intensive therapy. So if you're drawn to someone like that because you want to help him, you want to melt his heart, you cannot melt that guy's heart. He has to melt his own heart. That's the thing. That's what ultimately destroyed my marriage. I married a guy who had put a wall around his heart, and I thought I could melt that wall. I thought I could climb over that wall, and I couldn't. Nobody can. And the people who have walls around their heart, I think very few of them are ever willing to take that wall down, because that's safety. From the time they were little, they built that safety. Why would they want to give up that safety? None of us do unless we have to. And in a lot of cases, your partner would rather have you leave than go into that wall, than take that wall down. It's too scary. My boss at the time said, he was surprised. He's like, he would rather have you leave than look at the reasons why you're leaving. Looking at one's own feelings, people are not going to do that. People do not want to go to therapy. People don't want to. Hey, I tried offering couples counseling and therapy. People don't want it. People don't want to change. They're not coming unless they're in extreme pain. And sometimes when you're like, I'm going to leave you unless you change these things, there's a small chance this person will do it, only if you're actually leaving. You can't just say it. You got to already have your foot half out the door. they realize you're leaving, some small percentage of the guys are going to take a look at their problem behaviors, but the rest of them won't. Even you leaving, even though they don't want you to leave, even though they're going to be all alone and they hate that and they're going to be sad and they're worried and they're stressed, they would rather have you leave than take down that wall around their heart. That's how strong that is. It's a survival mechanism. It's survival. They cannot take that wall down around their heart. So, and that goes the same for people who don't want to go to therapy and work things out in relationship. Relationships cannot succeed when people have walls around their heart, when they're fake. And they might look to the outside world. I'm not even on Facebook or Instagram, but people can post their happy little photos, all fake. Because the only way that people can actually enjoy their relationship is if they're expressing their feelings within boundaries, with healthy boundaries, and there was someone else who's able to do the same. Otherwise, it's just misery. And I didn't know that back then. I didn't know. I just assumed that people would want to change for the sake of their relationship, that they'd want to be open. You know, I was just so naive. Now, I don't have any regrets about my marriage. In fact, it's likely that if I hadn't married him, I would have never gotten married at all. And I like that I had the experience of marriage. There were so many good experiences that came out of my marriage. And he also forced me to grow up in a lot of ways. Having these children was like a great gift. And he is a really good father. He really loved me, you know, and he tried his hardest. And if I hadn't married him, I would have never married at all. And I'm so glad I got married. Even though it caused me a lot of pain, I would have rather had that life than a life of all those years with no husband, no kids, or a divorced mom. I didn't want that either. So, you know, life isn't perfect. You take the good with the bad. But I guess in an ideal world, we marry people who are emotionally healthy, who value relating. And that's, you know, if you don't have that, there are a lot of people running around who are not emotionally healthy. And I mean, I don't even know if I am, to what extent, because I was married to someone who was emotionally, like, if I'm here, he was way beneath me, but I don't know what my level is. What if I were to meet someone who's like this and he thinks I'm emotionally unavailable? I mean, I really don't know. So for a long time after my divorce, I thought, well, what if I met somebody who was emotionally available that I could practice relationships with? Not just the sex part, but relationships. And I never met that person. And now I'm convinced that dating is for young people. You know, there's a thing that women have to realize. Our sexual market value does decline as we age, because when I was younger, more men were interested in fucking me. Actually, that's not so true. There's so many men that want to fuck me. But there's a difference for women between sexual market value and relationship market value. And our relationship market value is always with men that are 5 to 10 years older than we are. Okay? So when I'm 20, I'm attractive to men who are 25 to 50. They would date me. Okay? When I'm 30, I'm attractive to men who are 35 to 50, let's say. There are fewer of them who are still single. Now I'm 63. My relationship market value is for men who are 73 and up. For relationship market value, we want to look at men who actually say, hey, I want to date you. Now, I see a lot of guys who want to fuck me. I go in the grocery store and some of the clerks are like smiling at me, you know. They're like that kind of smile, like you're hot smile. I get that occasionally. I had that yesterday. And the guy was cute. He was super cute. And I just smiled back at him. But the men that actually say they want to date me, they're all over 70. You know, these other guys, they just want to fuck me. That's what women have to realize. I think that was one of the other points I was going to make. It's like, okay, if women have to be aware of whether men want to just fuck us or they want to date us. And a lot of women, because they're projecting some fantasy, they're like, I like this guy and he comes over and has sex with me, so he must like me too. No. If he's not taking you out, introducing you to his friends, introducing you to his family, saying, I want to date you, he's just happy with the situationship, the fuckmanship, the hookup buddy situation. So that's it. This was a little bit of a rambling, but I just wanted to make a video because I haven't made a video in so long, and I don't want to neglect my YouTube channel, but I no longer have that urge to like say everything. I just feel so much more private lately, and I no longer have that urge to date because I've seen the dating pool. There is no dating pool out there. I'm 63. Who am I going to date? I'm not attracted to these old men over 70. I'm not. I'm attracted to younger men, and they don't want to, men in their 40s and 50s, they still think I'm fuckable, but am I dateable? I don't think so, because they'll go for someone that's 5 or 10 years younger. Why wouldn't they? We all want the best looking one, right? Just like I want the best looking one, because guys in their 40s are hot, and guys in their 70s are not. In the same way that men who are 40 and 50 think that younger women are hot. And I might be good for a roll in the hay, but that's it. So we have to look at reality. And, you know, I know that men don't lose attraction to their wives just because the wife gets older. But when you're looking for a new relationship, you're going to look for your best deal, your best value, the best you can get, the most attractive, the most interesting, or whatever. So it's important for women to realize just because guys check you out doesn't mean they want to date you. They're like Kennedy. They'll unzip their pants, slide their dick in, or maybe if they're more passionate men who enjoy very passionate sex, they'll give you a very passionate experience. They'll even go down on you. They want you to come. They might even bring a bottle of wine. And then after they're done with you, they're going to leave you and you'll never hear from them again until the next time that they're horny. I had a married man once explain to me about an affair he had with his secretary. And she was so in love with him. She wanted him to leave his wife. And he said sometimes, you know, she would text him or whatever, and he didn't even want to hear from her. He's like, I just pretended to be interested in her so I could keep fucking her, but really she was just that for me. That's all she was to me. And the woman had no idea that that's all he saw her as. So I think that women have to be very careful. And sometimes men say, oh yeah, this woman I'm going out with, she had sex with all these other guys right away and she made me wait weeks. Because the woman who actually cares about a relationship and actually likes you, she knows she's going to be super, super hurt emotionally if you're just one of these fuckboys. She's not looking for another fuckboy. And so she's going to be a lot more choosy. And because she knows that just having a hookup is going to lead to you just having a hookup and moving on. Although there are cases where people have sex right away and they start dating, but it's just a different strategy. The same with men. I've talked to really hot guys who are like, when men want to date a woman, they do not push for sex. They're not pushing for sex. So these men, I've seen these guys on the internet like, oh, she gave it up right away for this guy and I have to go through all these dates. Well, then you're not interested in dating her. If you just want sex, then find someone who just wants to give you sex. If you just see her as some manipulative creature, I don't think you're in the good headspace for dating. And if you really wanted to date a woman, you wouldn't expect her to have sex with you right away. You would be okay with just getting to know her first. So don't spend any money. Just get to know her. And if you think she's leading you on and you don't like her personality, find someone you respect. You know, if you're dating some woman who's just going out with you while she's still hooking up with other guys, she's not in a dating space. A woman in a dating space is not fucking Jack at 11 o'clock while she has dinner with you at 7. That's not a thing. That's just some traumatized problem woman. I used to make a lot more videos about this type of stuff, but then all these angry incel guys came on my channel, so I'm like, I do not want to talk about this anymore. Now, as far as the members area, that's where I discuss more personal things. I'm not trying to withhold from the general audience, but when I make these videos about my life to anyone, I don't want just anyone to hear some of these details of my life. So the members only stuff, if you want to subscribe to that, that's more personal things about my life and my sexual experiences that I don't want to tell just anyone. So, you know, if you're not interested in that, you don't have to subscribe. But if you're interested in that, you can subscribe. You can also schedule phone calls with me if you have something you want to discuss. Just go to the bio on my YouTube channel and you can see all the information, where to get my book, how to schedule something. Thanks for watching my video, and see you next time.